Hi, my name is John, and this is Business Update. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about the recent launch of or recent release of Razer Zephyr mask, and we'll talk about what the review is. Should you buy one or should you not buy one? Next, we'll be talking about we just recently talked about it last week regarding the Go cities in China. So the company, the real estate developer here, Evergrande, is in trouble. So we'll talk about that. And recent thief, actually not so recent. We've discussed this previously regarding the issue wherein Google's YouTube has been requesting, or I don't know, demanding or requesting regarding the preferential treatment on the platform streaming box of Roku here, and it's a he said she said issue here, and who's right here, who's wrong, and what's going on there. But anyway, and lastly, we'll be talking about Apple's recent decision to foray into the car industry by planning to build their own first ever Apple car. And obviously it's not going to be easy in terms of manufacturing their very own vehicle, and it has already hit a snag here with regards to its battery capability. So we'll talk about that, and let's get started. So as mentioned, so the first story that we're going to talk about is regarding Razer's recent launch of the Razer Zephyr mask. So in our previous video, we've talked about that obviously the personal protective equipment, whether a face shield or face mask, is commonplace nowadays, obviously with the pandemic that's still ongoing here. Now, despite people getting vaccinated, the issue still is everyone comfortable not wearing any sort of protection, especially in certain countries, in particular in Asian countries at that. And anyway, so Razer decided to foray into the building of protective equipment here in terms of a mask. And obviously if you know anything about Razer, they're more for gamers here, and they're trying to develop a product. Actually, when I saw the prototype here, it looks interesting here. Now, how would it look like in actual in the real world was kind of interesting, and lo and behold, it was recently launched, and it was reviewed by here in the under the website or article of pcgamer.com, who wore the Razer Zephyr mask and doesn't think that it's going to it can pull off what's intended for because of the design here. Now, it looks aesthetically pleasing on the drawing or in the picture, but obviously the reality is sometimes totally different here. So let's take a closer look. And as you can clearly see here, it's as if you're wearing a gas mask here. That's sounding the alarm that there's something terrible that's going on here. And obviously, if you're wearing this and people were to see you wearing this in public, it's not going to connote confidence, more so of dread and panic, so to speak here. So the reviewer here tried to wear the face mask as mentioned, and to see how people would react, and how would you feel when you're wearing this. Now, obviously the point here is to be able to breathe normally, and you can see in the design that it has the typical Razer design and color scheme and whatnot. So trying it out in public obviously has a mixed bag of results here. And obviously Razer is known for their gaming peripherals, so to speak, even laptops and so forth here. So coming up with a face mask that it's their own is something that maybe gamers would be interested. So they try to foray here. Whether it's going to be successful here or not, well, that's something we have to wait and see here. But anyway, so obviously offering this product has RGB as always is, to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And obviously it's official N95 grade filter, so it is actually usable in terms of protecting your health here. And it has what's interesting, it has twin intake fans, so you can breathe normally here. Obviously, if you're just wearing regular face mask here, it's somewhat cumbersome and difficult to breathe, and especially for those who wear eyeglasses, can be problematic, and it tends to fog up. So How comfortable would it be? Maybe, maybe not. So it depends here. Now, the pricing here, as mentioned, is going to cost you around $100 or 5,000 bucks in our currency. Or if you want a more premium product that has the starter pack with included replacement and 95 filters here, so it's going to cost you an additional 50 bucks or 2,500. So you can imagine the price already. So it's amounting to close to 10,000 bucks or $150 if you're planning to buy just a simple PPE. And is it something that you could wear comfortably for long durations? Maybe maybe not here. But obviously, if we were to look at the photo, so let's take a closer look here. So let's see how he fared in public here. So obviously you can see here in the design, it looks sleek and it's nice, obviously. But the problem here is in public, it's going in reality it's going to look different. And obviously with the twin fans on the sides would look similar to what I mentioned earlier, like a typical gas mask. And that does not connote confidence or fashion or style, but more so of dread, as I mentioned. So whether people are willing to see people wear those types of gear, what's missing is, you're missing wearing a suit, the hazmat suit that typical scientists wear in a laboratory of sorts here. Anyway, so obviously it can be problematic in terms of being able to talk through the mask here. So in terms of its voice amp, uh, the amplification that it mentioned, it has a fun voice modulation function via your phone, obviously, but in this case wasn't able to come to pass. So obviously, not all marketing spiels or features that was mentioned at the beginning wasn't included in the finished product here. And obviously, no matter what the added features that they are going to include in the mask here, at the end of the day, can it do its job of protecting, people's health here? Obviously, not just the wearer, but other people as well. So question here is, will it be enough to entice people here? Obviously, wearing basic face mask is going to be problematic on its own. And if it's going to be heavy, especially if you're wearing for long periods of time, can be cumbersome and, not comfortable here. And I don't know if people are willing to spend that much money. Even if you're a gamer, you tend to play at home most of the time. And if you're going to go out, unless you're playing outside, then it would make sense to wear that the Razer Zephyr mask. But I don't know. But looking at the article here, they're going to say it's surprisingly comfortable to wear. Now, in the long periods of time, will that tire soon? Maybe, maybe not. And he goes on to say even specky glasses, where it does solve the issue of having them steam up, which is one of my concerns early on. So you have to keep on cleaning your glasses every time you go from a different temperatures, and then you go to another extreme temperature by the time you go out to your rooms or in the streets and so forth here. So question is anyone going to be clamoring for the Razer's Zephyr mask? Maybe not. You could buy more practical things other than a Zephyr mask here. But at least the idea, they are able to come to fruition and be able to produce and sell it to the public. I'm sure there's avid Razer fans who's going to buy the product regardless, and hopefully we'll see it in action. And will it be a good investment? Who knows? Anyway, continuing with our update here. So we were talking about the China's ghost towns last week in our discussion, and the companies that's at the forefront of developing those properties in China is what do you call this? Is called the Evergrande group of companies. And according to the article here at Reuters.com, the property behemoth is in trouble with regards to defaulting in terms of their debt. Now, obviously, the issue we discussed there at the beginning is that the company is building at a fast rate of uh, building property cities here that sprouts out in a few years, thinking that the movement of people from rural areas to urban areas would be significant here. And obviously, as we mentioned, we discussed last time, that was not the case here. There was an overestimation here. There's more supply than the demand actually is, and people, I think, were caught in a dilemma here. They invested thinking that a lot of people were going to buy those properties, and all of a sudden that's not the case. And you know majority, 80-90% I think of the properties are unused, either by the property owners or the renters themselves. And obviously, this was due to the government's push to accelerate the growth of the economy here, and obviously encouraging developers to develop those properties. And obviously, those companies are trying to push the development by borrowing money heavily. And if things don't pan out, could be disastrous, not just for the company, and in this case for the country, for the economy here. Now, good thing here, let's see here. So I think last on the 22nd, I think. So the company thankfully was able to avert their being default on a last minute bond coupon fee. So if that were to happen, one of the world's or second largest financial system would be would be a disaster here, because they have a lot of debt tied up to those real estate properties as mentioned. So that's as much as they had to pay. What was it? They had to pay curiosity on a U.S. greenback bond, this which they dispatch almost $84 million to Citibank trustee account. And obviously, things could have gotten out of hand if they were not able to find a solution to deal with the, obviously, if you borrow money over a certain period, it depends on the arrangement. Is it a monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual, or even a yearly payment here? And if you're not able to pay your debts on top of the principal, uh, obviously, this doesn't look good for the company, and it has severe ramifications for the company, for the industry, and even for the country as well here. But nonetheless, they were able to stave off those concerns. And even according to the chairman of Evergrande, Hugh Kayan, stated that their corporate goal is to make its new electrical car enterprise its major enterprise, other than property uh, property investments in the company. So obviously, shifting to a different industry is good, but obviously, if you've leveraged yourself, invested a lot in real estate, and if the bubble bursts, that's the problem here, similar to what happened in the last financial crisis in the United States, right? That a lot of companies or hedge companies betted against the people on their mortgages, that they keep on mortgaging, remortgaging, thinking that it's going to appreciate the value of their property, which did not happen, which completely sank those values. That's why a lot of people were in ruins here, and those who came out on top were the hedge companies, not the people who invested in the first place here. Now, obviously, for the company here, it's a sort of a relief that they were able to stave off those problems for the meantime. But obviously, moving forward, what's going to happen? Because as long as there's no people occupying those properties, it's going to go to waste in a sense for the foreseeable futures. And you could just imagine a year from now, 5 years from now, or even 10 years from now, what would happen to those properties. People are keep on investing on those properties, and if you don't sell them or nobody uses them, then the value is somewhat inflated in a sense, and that can be dangerous here. Obviously, the government is taking a closer look here, making sure that people don't just suddenly sell those properties, and that could crash the economy which is can be dreadful if you're in China right now. And obviously, it goes on to say that the company's distress levels in pertains to uh, what do you call it, shares rose even as high as 7.8%. But obviously, will that be sustainable in the long run here? And there's a lot of money involved here, as much as 5 trillion. Uh, that could be lost here if things don't pan out that the government seems to rely upon. And you know one can be concerned, especially if you're living in those areas, thinking that those values would be beneficial in the long run. But we don't know. So, and even according to an insider there, the readability of how financial institution financing goes for stalled actual property tasks. However, we all know that mission pre-sales are downloads. The onshore enterprise are unlikely to be supplying money to Evergrande in the near term. But either way, the problem here will still persist, and we'll stay tuned and keep you updated with regards to the situation here. And actually, it would be interesting to see. I think there were a documentary on YouTube regarding, I forgot which one was it, that states regarding the story behind how was the ghost cities came to be. And even I think 60 Minutes did a documentary about this, or a piece about this one. Anyway, next we have the tiff, as I mentioned earlier, between Google's YouTube as well as Roku now. In our previous discussions, in our previous live stream, that Google was accused of strong arming, again, being monopolistic, trying to use their power over other platforms or competitors, or in this case, supposed to be partners. In the case of Roku, which is a streaming platform box, so to speak. So obviously, Google's want that they would be the preferred search engine using YouTube, so that when people use the box, that they would see YouTube there compared to other competitors here. And obviously, Roku is saying that they were strong arm here, being strong arm, so to speak. That's why they don't want to use YouTube's platform here. And Google was mentioned that that was not true, but based on a leaked email here, that seems to crumble with what Google was saying here. Anyway, according to 9to5google.com, a leaked email allegedly shows that Google did ask Roku for special search treatment for their platform, or in this case, YouTube here. So the feud obviously is a big issue for Google. Obviously, they rely on the search engine for people to look for it, to be the preferred search engine here, whether it's Google search, or in this case for YouTube search, for for entertain, for watching videos here. And what's interesting here, uh, Google has been denying that there was a such uh, assessment, or request, or demand, however you want to call it. But anyway, based on the email as mentioned, uh, what is Google continues to interfere with Roku's independent search result. Obviously, if you're the dominant player in the market, you want to maintain that position. And obviously, if there are other players in the same realm, you want to squash them before they become an actual threat to your survival here. Anyway, it Google mentioned that they had denied allegation regarding to it was baseless, claiming that it was Roku who decided to renegotiate the contract between the two companies. Anyway, Google goes on to say that they have never, as they have alleged, made any request to access user data to interfere with the search result. And obviously, that's another thing. That's why they want to be the preferred search, whether it's through YouTube or Google's search engine, so that they can access the data, or the user's data here, which is, I think, that's the main point here. And obviously, Roku doesn't want to share those information, since they're the one investing a lot on their streaming box so that users can easily access whether it's Netflix or watching Disney Plus or any other streaming services here. And why should they cater to just one platform wherein obviously at the end of the day the consumers preferences, whether it's YouTube or Netflix or any other streaming services, would be beneficial at the end of the day. Anyway, Google insists that it never made such request, but in the email proves it otherwise, as mentioned. Now, obviously, Google did not provide a comment. Obviously, they're trying to salvage the issue here. Anyway, according to the email, it mentions the Google executive to Roku states or read YouTube's position a dedicated shelf for YouTube search result is a must. So stating the word is a must is sort akin to command or demand and so forth. And obviously, uh, this is a big issue here, especially if you're trying to compete in their realm here. So having your own dedicated shelf, similar to how Google strong arm or partnered with Google, not Google, with Samsung to make sure that they don't create their own Samsung app by paying Samsung billions of dollars so that in your Samsung devices that Google will be the only platform, or Google's Play Store is the only platform that you're going to use in your devices here. Because if Samsung were to suddenly change, create their own platform, obviously there are a lot of Samsung devices out there, and obviously Google, outside of the Apple ecosystem, you only have Android, and if you don't have Android, then then what's the use of having Android devices if it's not compatible with, if people are not using your platform anymore. Anyway, so at the end of the day, so who stands to benefit here? And obviously, it's an interesting situation here, whether there's credence to the email that was leaked here. But either way, it just goes to show, if the story was true, that Google has been trying to strong arm other people, other company, or other players, just like with any other monopolistic companies, with the likes of Facebook, Amazon, Google, you name it. And obviously they're trying to maintain their stronghold in their marketplace here. And actually, you also have Disney, another company that's trying to maintain its dominant share in the entertainment segment. But obviously, foreign in the streaming services, has something less to be desired, because making it restrictive for your audiences could hamper their revenue here. But obviously they want to pursue the streaming to compete with the likes of Netflix, but that's another discussion altogether here. But at the end of the day, for Roku's position here, obviously they want to maintain their strength, which is providing a product and services. Does it mean, should it include YouTube? Obviously, but should they be given preferences here? And obviously, unless Google can provide something tangible that could benefit Roku, then there's no reason for Roku to 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 accept the request, or demand, whatever they want to call it here. Anyway, we'll see how that goes here. And what, if anything were to happen to that TIFF anyway. Lastly, we've been talking about in previous live streams, I think weeks or months ago, that Apple's has big ambitions. It's not just conquering in the tech business in terms of selling smartphone devices, laptops, or even desktop computers, or even audio devices, and they're now foraying into the automotive industry here now. Based on my insights early on, it's going to be a big tall task. Obviously, they're good in the designing of smart tech devices, but designing for a vehicle is a big daunting aspect here, because they don't have the expertise or knowledge. And it would make sense to partner with existing car manufacturers here, which they have been trying to do. And there's another problem that comes with trying to develop a electric vehicle. Is one of those issue is finding a supplier for your battery, similar to how Tesla is developing their own battery by partnering with, I think it's LG here. I think it's LG. So that they have all the products or the materials that they need to actually produce a finished product in their own warehouses or manufacturing plant in their Giga Tesla factories. Anyway, here at according to CNET.com, so the problem for Apple Car hits another roadblock in the battery supply deal. So let's take a closer look. So the problem with the uh, Apple's plan to conquer the EV market is their plan to talk with tech giants that produces batteries, in particular China's CATL and BYD, has had hit a snag, and obviously those companies are not complying to what Apple is demanding here. Now, obviously, Apple is a big player here, obviously, in terms of being able to command certain benefits in terms of if they were to, let's say, go to China, they'll be given special treatment because they'll be producing a lot of units there and they'll provide a lot of jobs. So companies, or in this case countries, would be interested to partner up with them. But in this case, on the other hand, those companies are also in competition with other companies who's looking to vie for their services. Now, that's on the business side. Now, there have been reports here that maybe the companies here that are both in China or Chinese company may be hesitant to partner with it because of the ongoing tension between the US and China relationship. Now, whether that has got nothing to do with it or has everything to do with it, you know, Apple as a company has a big problem. Obviously, you cannot produce cars if there's no battery here. And one of the key components of an electric vehicle is to have a battery, similar to whether your smartphone devices that they're producing here, and they need a large scale manufacturing of batteries here. So they need to have a consistent supply that can provide that demand. And obviously, they're betting that once they're able to produce a vehicle, an Apple car, similar to how Tesla did, the 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 many loyal Apple users would eventually buy their products as well, which I think would happen. But would other outside of Apple loyalists here that you would consider, would they be inclined to buy an Apple car, similar to people who are not familiar to Tesla? Maybe more inclined to buy an EV vehicle here. Now, obviously, Tesla and Apple are two different companies, and Tesla's strength is obviously they've been in the market for several years. And if you're Apple here, you're still new to the market here. And obviously, here reports that surfacing that left and right, you're trying to hire the right people for the right job, but obviously having the not just the technical knowledge but the resources to be able to produce an actual electric vehicle. That's why the plan for them to release, I think somewhere in mid 2025, I think. So I think that's a bit too early if you think about it, because with the continuous chip shortage that's been ravaging still, that a lot of companies, like when we talk about, I think Hyundai was considering building their own chip, manufacturing their own chips so that they can have a steady supply of their chips to their vehicles. Obviously, that's a tall order. Not many can simply just decide to create their own division for chip making, not just for computers but for their vehicles as well. Here, that's why if you notice, there are only two major players in chip. Let's say two. There are three, but for computers, you have AMD and Intel, right? And then for mobile, you have Snapdragon here, which I think is owned by TSM. Is it TSMC or they're the manufacturer? I forgot. But either way, Apple has a tall order here. But if there's a company that can accomplish the task that they set on, if Steve Jobs was still alive, I think they can accomplish it. But how successful will it be, or will it be a big flop here? Obviously, they're betting that it's going to be tremendous here. Obviously, it's a very big market here, but with very low margins. I don't know if Apple is willing to invest on that, but obviously the mobile business has, I think has reached its saturating point in terms of being a market leader or one of the market leaders outside of Samsung. That's why they're foraying into other businesses. When you talk of streaming services, Apple TV, and then foraying into films, TV series, then selling of products, and obviously you have the app store, the platform itself. So obviously consolidating it so that if they're able to do it successfully, could be beneficial for all Apple users here. So imagine from your home to your car to your work and everything that you're doing, Apple is involved in all of your aspects of your life, which is kind of scary if you think about it. But obviously it provides a convenience that not many companies can easily do, and I think Google has been trying to do that, but to varying degrees of success there. But they have time on their side because they have the large resources at their disposal to to buy their time, unless another company can swoop in and take advantage of that situation. But who knows. Anyway, I think that concludes our discussion for this week. Thanks again for watching. Come back come back again on Wednesday for more business update. And if you enjoy watching this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.